Since escaping the flying battery airbase many a moon ago, Sonic and Tails have been sitting around at the entrance to Eggman's main propaganda factory for a while. I figure it's probably time to let them move on and free them from the horror of whatever sensationalist headlines Eggman is putting into his tabloid rag. So let's get on to teaching him some journalistic integrity. As has become practically a tradition at this point, what with the long breaks between each and every one of these episodes, the first thing I needed to do was get back to grips with how Sonic Mania plays. Top tip for anyone trying to maintain your skill in any game: don't let there be massive gaps in between every level you play, it will not help you improve. Therefore, Act 1 was characterised by a long series of various mistakes and blunders, with a lot of scraping heads along ceilings and missed jumps. I needed to figure out Mania's jump arc again, as it all felt a lot slower than I remember. Admittedly, that's likely mostly my fault with the constant tumbling back down platforming sections, or courses jumps that killed my speed and what are actually just speed sections, but having spent most of my time recently on SRB2, the jump felt particularly squashed here. It's a lot taller yet narrower than in that game, so I'd undershoot gaps pretty often. The facility we found ourselves locked within has two sides. One is the highly efficient and modern manufacturing line for the news of the Eggman Empire, while the other is some sort of dilapidated mansion. Crumbling walls are smashed through to reach industrial rollers, and delivery trains in the background speed past giant stained glass windows. I don't think it's as natural a fit as something like Studiopolis's fusion of Neon City and Movie Studio, but that could also just be me not liking the colour scheme. Green and pink? Really, Eggman? Get some taste, I'm doing everyone a service tearing down your strawberry and mint abomination. Luckily, I didn't need to keep looking at it much longer, because after stepping on an unstable section of floor, Sonic and Tails plummet into a room and meet the mini-boss of the zone. Civasaur is presumably Press Garden's waste disposal manager, seeing as they are in a room of discarded crates and are outfitted with a set of two circular saws. To be honest, these seem like the absolute worst thing to fit a disposal droid with. Why not incinerators, or some sort of shredder? The number of cuts you need to destroy one stack of papers. I'm getting off topic here. Civasaur will slowly hover towards you and extend out their arms to attack, but all you need to do to avoid this is hide behind one of the orange boxes dotted around the arena. I never realised this before, but the saws are actually made out of ice, and what I thought was some sort of monkey's face is in actuality a set of freeze tanks to produce these. Though it can be difficult to avoid the saws when they regenerate due to a lack of a real animation as they are produced, Civasaur is still a pushover. With Tails at your side, you can really dole out the hurt with every opportunity, and the blue rings I picked up earlier meant that I still had 100 rings left at the end of the fight, even after getting hit. For whatever reason though, Civasaur was seemingly Eggman's first foray into nuclear power, because upon defeat they explode in a flash of blinding light and reduce the whole facility to rubble. Good riddance, tabloids are the worst, but I think a waste disposal droid was an odd one to pick for a test drive with a powerful new energy source, you know? I say it's nuclear because Act 2 causes the scene to transition to a beautiful landscape of snow and cherry blossoms, and I like to believe it's a sneaky nod towards the idea of a nuclear winter. Whatever the justification is though, it's a much nicer place than the previous act. The new gimmicks are all themed around ice, whether that be in the form of ice spikes, or ice cubes, or ice springs, or ice sonics. Because of this last gimmick especially, Act 2 is much faster than the previous one, with a lot of sections that you'll be blasting through very quickly. So quickly at one point, that I somehow managed to bounce off of a wall. Luckily, some swinging platforms are in the right place to keep me on track, but it's the first time I've seen something like this happen in this game. Other than that, it's mostly smooth sailing through the serene forest landscape, assisted by the fact that I seem to reach every level segment at the optimal point in their loop. I only really slowed down at the end, when I needed to go up and couldn't keep my momentum going any further. A Japanese-inspired forest landscape needs a Japanese-inspired boss though, and that's where Heavy Shinobi comes into play. 5 points for guessing which Sega IP this guy is a reference to. The fight itself is relatively simple. Hit Shinobi while he's jumping around to stun him, or else he'll freeze you. Because this doesn't actually damage you, it starts off as a relatively low stake encounter, but after landing a few shots he'll start throwing a Sterons around like Shuriken. and this is where some danger is introduced. Obviously, getting hit by the Asterons as they travel is damaging, as are the spikes launched by their explosive suicide attack, so Heavy Shinobi can back you into a corner if you aren't paying attention. This actually happened to me during my first attempt. Of course, once you find out the Asterons can be jumped or spun into to destroy them safely when stuck in a wall, the fight once again becomes, well, it is easy, but I'd look stupid calling it a cakewalk when the footage shows me get my ass handed to me. Tails was the one to do most of the work in the end. But victory was inevitable, and when the trees marking the arena magically exploded, we could carry on forwards to once again come face to face with Eggman himself. Looking at plans to take over Little Planet again, he teleported Sonic and Tails there using the Phantom Ruby, but not before we got to look at a very strange looking version of Metal Sonic. Spoiler alert, he doesn't look anything like this in the game, thank God. I hope you enjoyed the video, and ciao.